Hey guys, how you guys doing? Thanks for joining me on the channel. This is Stan with L4C Multimedia. As you guys have seen, we've started our color grading journey by going on a course of color grading made easy, beginner's guide, and this is going to be the fifth session. All right. So let's dive straight into Premiere so we can get some work done. So to make things easy, I decided to just go ahead and do some work ahead of time to make this a bit more shorter, since we by now we all understand the process. The general rule is for the color grading process we only need three layers: the layer 1, which is our most bottom layer for our conversion, layer 2 for our correction, and our final layer if we need it, and it's optional for our creative look or our stylized look if we need something like that. Okay, so that is the process for the color grading. And of course, if you need sharpening, then you need to put that in between the correction and the creative. Okay, making a layer 3 for the sharpening, and then your final will be for your fade. Okay, so I already went ahead and did the work ahead of time, so I'm just going to go through the process and explain everything to you guys. Okay, so let's just say I had everything checked off and we weren't seeing any work done and we had our log footage going. Okay, and let's get our lumetric scope up. Okay, so two ways we can go about with this. Okay, on our original shot, okay, we can right click on the footage, and we can go to modify, go to color, go to override media color space, and pick whatever our conversion is. I shoot on Sony FX3 S log 3 cinema gamut. Cinema gamut 3 has two options. So it has the Cine EI and it has Cine EI quick. I like the Cine EI quick because it allows you to kind of have a little bit more control over the exposure, but it will still lock it to the base, whereas Cine just locks it without you having the flexibility. And of course, flexible ISO also helps you do that. So if you are using flexible ISO or you're using Cine EI quick, then you want to use the S Gamut 3 without the Cine. And then if you are using the Cine the Cine EI original, then you want to make sure you are using the S Gamut 3 Cine. Okay, so in this situation, if I was to pick the Cine, it's going to be a little too bright for my taste, or look something like so. And if I was to go ahead and do the regular, okay, for my EI quick or flexible ISO, it will look something like that. Okay, and maybe the Cine Cine EI quick for the Cine EI original for this shot may not look bad. In this situation, I'm not going to do this. Okay, I'm going to be using my layer 1 for the conversion. So I'm going to go to my basic correction in my lumetric color, and again for my lumetric scopes, okay, I'm using the Vectroscope YUV, and I'm using my RGB parade, and I'm using my RGB waveform. So whichever you want to use, you can dot that up so you can use it for your reference. And the whole idea is here, we want to make sure we are not clipping the 100s and we are not clipping below the 0, and we are staying fairly subtle. Okay, so subtle changes. So for the base conversion, okay, as you guys can tell, I'm gonna eye it, and you guys can see I'm using the Sony S Gamut 3 low contrast 709 type A. That is directly from Sony. So if you want to do something like that, that's cool. If you want to do the Cine look, it will give you something like this. Okay, if you want to do the regular 709, it will give you something like this. That looks nice. Okay, but I wanted to go a bit softer, so that's why I chose that. Okay, and of course, if you want to use whatever conversion LUT you use, for example, I use buttery LUTs, so I normally will use something like the V2 here, which looks pretty nice, not too bad. Or I can add a bit more contrast and it will look fairly good. But for the purpose of keeping it simple, especially for using factory level stuff, I'm going to go back to the Sony's provided conversion LUT low contrast 709 type A. Okay, cool. So that's what we are doing for the conversion. and pretty much we are not making any adjustments. We are just doing the conversion, and that is it. Then we move to our correction, okay? And our corrected look looks like this, okay? So basically we go to the basic correction and we make all the necessary changes. You guys can tell without me applying the correction, it looks a bit darker. The shadows need to come out a little bit more, and it needs some kind of help with a little bit contrasty look. So as you guys can tell, I boosted the contrast by 40, and for the highlights I decided to reduce it a little bit by 20 just to make up for the contrast that I am adding, because when you add contrast, ideally you are lifting the black levels also. So I wanted to make sure that I reduce the highlights just to compensate for that. And then I also lifted the shadows, because if you are kind of darkening an image, you should know that it's also gonna darken the shadows. Just like I said, it darkens the image, so the shadows are also gonna look a bit softer. So I decided to just lift the shadows a little bit, and so that's what we are seeing in the correction. And of course we did our white balance, where we can sample off the flower or we can sample off the lamp. Okay, so I decided to sample off the lamp in this case. Okay, and that is what we are seeing in the corrected look. Okay, all right, great. So in the corrected look, that's what we are going to do in the basic correction. And then of course the curves, I decided that I will make a little tweak. So without the curve, it looks something like so. Okay, and I just added a little bit. Okay, so without it, with it. Okay, so basically a little bit of the lows are getting I'm decreasing it a little bit. I'm lifting it a little bit in the mids, okay, just to help with the shadows that are going down. And I'm also kind of increasing a little bit with my highlights, okay, not too much. And I can be drastic with it, but I wasn't. Then of course the colors within the image, we are seeing that we have some type of brown looking color. So that's what is represented by what you see me lifting here. Without all these lifts, it's gonna look like this, okay? And then with it, it's gonna look like that. So you guys see the difference with that, with it, without. So without it, it looks like this. With it, it looks like this. Okay, so you guys can see I have some green in here and I have some greens in the flower, so I decided to just go ahead and lift the greens. Okay, then of course you guys can tell we have some brown gold looking type and yellow looking flowers here, yellows here. Okay, so we have some brown, gold, green. So I decided to just go ahead and just lift the between that orange look, orange and yellow, just lift it a little bit and just stay in between, so it kind of just does the best of both worlds. Okay, and that's what I did with these color lifts. Okay, then of course if you go deeper into my image, you will see that I have some pink flowers in there. Okay, so with the pink flowers I decided, hey, let me just lift it a little bit. Okay, and that's what you are seeing. And of course I could do the case too for the blues, and also my shirt here is a blue, so I decided to lift the blue a little bit just to help with this frame and also the color of my shirt. Okay, cool. So that's what you are seeing with all these color changes. Okay, and of course I did not do anything else within any of the curves. Okay, so that is it. That's all I did for the curves, and I did not do anything in the HSL or anything like that, because I don't really have any subject that I want to work on. So it's just what it is. Okay, so basic correction was done with that. So basically, in a nutshell, we went from our log footage to our converted from Rec 709 footage to our corrected footage, and that's what we have so far. Then of course for our creative look, we decided, hey, let's go ahead and add a little bit of change to it. You guys can tell it's very subtle, it's not much, very subtle. Okay, so basically we're going to go to our creative tab and we're going to put whatever we want. You can try all the looks you want to try and see what best fit. In this case I decided to go for the film look. I could have gone with something like my cinematic LS cinematic Chavin here, and that will still get a very nice job done, as you guys can tell. Okay, so and I could have done just about anything that I wanted to do. Okay, I could have used one of the Sony provided presets that they give you, something like the orange and the teal and orange. I could have gone something like that and it'll still look very nice, right? It's not that bad. But again, I decided to go for my film look with my bud reload. Okay, and that's all I did there. So you guys can tell we are hitting the highlights barely, we are hitting the black points barely, not that bad. Okay, and I'm really not going to worry so much about my my RGB parade, because with this with the scope here, because honestly speaking, I don't need to worry about any skin tone. Okay, so if I wanted to, sorry about that, my vector scope. Okay, so what I meant by that is my vector scope. So I'm not really going to worry about that, because I don't need to do anything with that. So for me personally, that is okay for me. Okay. All right. Okay. So let me get away my histogram. Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So I wanted to get this look. All right. So now that I have all that sorted out, I decided to go ahead and darken it by 10%. If it's at 100%, it's gonna look like this. Okay, so it's gonna be very contrasty. So you can decide to push it back to 50. You can decide to push it back by 40. You can decide to push it back by 30, 20, but I decided to do 10 because I wanted it to be very subtle. Okay, and you guys can tell, very subtle. I did not even boost the saturation. Ideally speaking, I could boost the saturation by 110 or 120. Okay, and it would look somewhere contrasty and it'll still look good, but I didn't even do that. Right, I just kept it at as is. Okay, just wanted to keep it very natural looking. Okay, all right, so that's all I did there. I did not do anything else. And of course, if you want to add a little bit more contrast, you can just add a little bit. Okay, just about 10, and that's all I did with these. Okay, do I have to do it there? No, I can go back to my correction and just add a little bit there too, and ideally will be the same thing. Okay, so that is it. So that's all I did for this edit. And of course, my sharpen, I decided to just basically add my sharpen and my unsharp mask. I added 5 for the sharpen. So basically, I started with our unsharp mask, added 80, then I added 2, and you guys probably will not be able to tell what all is doing, but if you come closer to the image and I was to take it off, you guys can tell a little bit it's a bit softer. So when I add it, it adds a little bit more clarity to it. Okay, and so basically I add 80, I add 2 or 80 for the amount, 2 for the radius, then I top it up with a sharpen at 5, and that gives me the look that you guys are seeing. Okay, and pretty much that's all I did for the sharpen efforts. And of course I did my fades, just fade at the end. Okay, so in all we have a footage that looks like this. Now the noise that you guys are gonna see, the quality you guys are gonna see, is because my computer cannot handle a lot of work, so I really have it dialed down. But if you are doing full and you have it rendered, you get a better image, so don't worry about the quality. It's gonna be better, but I just, for the purpose of getting these lessons done, I'm just kind of keeping it down so I can get the lessons done. Okay, so basically this is what we have. I don't know if half can get it done well. Let me see. Okay, so half is not too bad, so we can go ahead and play that back, see how it looks. Okay, all right. Okay, so I think that does not help it, so let's do, yeah. So we're gonna have to stay at the 4th 1/4. Okay, so basically you guys see that. All right, and we have something very nice. Okay, all right, very nice. Okay, let's speed it up a little bit. All right, I wanna get going. Okay, and you guys can tell I'm editing with proxies too. Okay, you guys see that? Very nice, right? And of course you guys can see a lot more. Okay, very nice. Okay, and of course you can improve the image if you wanted to. Okay, that's not my central focus. Okay, all right, and you guys can see what it's doing there. All right, cool. So that's all we are doing there. And of course, if you wanted to have a before and after look, you can always just go ahead, and that's why I have the clip duplicated, so you can just go ahead and simply make a nested clip here. Okay, and once you make your nested clip, you can decide, hey, I want to go ahead and make my log footage, send it to the left, okay, something like so. And then you can decide, hey, my corrected footage, let me send it to the right. Okay, actually you can just flip it, and then yep, and then you can just go ahead and flip it and then send that to the right a little bit. Okay, and since that is the log footage, you can just have it hide a little bit more. Okay, and basically you have something like so, and it'll still look good. Okay, so you can tell your log footage looks like that. Okay, and you can tell more. Okay, all right, and again, the noise, don't worry about it. It's because I'm playing back in a very low resolution. Okay, but once you have it rendered, it's gonna look good. Okay, and I'm also editing in proxy mode. Okay, all right, so pretty much very nice. Okay, and you guys can tell once you're ready to export, just change to full and get it exported out. Okay, and that's pretty much all we did on this edit. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was a quick tutorial just to give you guys an easy way that you can color grade. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Stein with L4C Multimedia.
Thanks for watching.